Good evening, Dolphin fans, and any fan that you are. If you're a fan of the Hurricanes, Ohio State, whoever you are, welcome to another episode of Finn's Talk Overtime on the Bandwagon. I'm your host, Finn Stanza. With me always is Greg and Bret. Sorry I couldn't be on the show last night. I had to postpone it because I wanted to save all my energy for tonight. That's why I didn't want to run out of things to talk about. But honestly, guys, I must say, I don't know if you guys have been checking it out, but I think what this show last week had, I know it was a great title and we went on for 2 hours, but I think it was one of the best rated shows we've had on the Finstock Sports Network in a long time. It was over 2,000, over 2,200 views so far. So thank you everyone who's watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're brought to you by Caneswear and the greatest show on surf.shop. Don't forget to check them out, guys. There's a lot to talk about. So I titled this show a little bit, and then obviously we're going to expand on it. But I actually made a comment, and I want to get your opinion on it. That right off the bat, I say Skylar is not going to be our problem. It's everyone around him. So right off the bat, I don't think Skylar is going to be our problem over the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be whether Tyreek Hill, David Long, Teron Armstead, Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Waddle, Zach Sealer, those players, the core of our captains, and Alec Ingle, are they going to step up? And of course, I believe, is this head coach of ours going to be a true head coach, or is he going to be someone who's just trying to just save his own face? Because I think this week he's been all over the place, word salad galore. So right off the bat, how are you two doing, and what are your thoughts on that concept as we lead into the show?
No, I agree with you. I had a good week. I was able to get home in time. I was in Chicago the last couple of days for work, but yeah, the word salad thing with Mike McDaniel, it just keeps getting, I don't know, stranger to me every time he talks. It just, well, for the last 2 years, he's taken, what I like to say, 50 words to make 10 of them mean something, right? Now I think he's up to like 100, right? And it's just one of those things. But to your point, Evan, I agree. The difference between, in my mind, the difference between hello,
You're
are
cutting
we
in and out
still
a little
here?
bit. Yeah, you're cutting in and out, but go for it. Did he freeze?
Everybody just froze on my computer.
We're good. Get yourself adjusted, Greg. I'll let Brett go. Brett, go for it, and then you'll adjust yourself so we see you moving your lips.
All right. Well,
okay,
I'm good now. I'm good.
So tell me what your thoughts on what I just said right off the bat.
Man, I think it's a slippery slope because I mean, we always say like it's we got to stop blaming the team, or we got to stop like can't just blame just Tua, but like we'll say like your quarterback's got to step up, but at the same time, when your backup quarterback comes in, the level drops. We to me, Skylar's not as good as Tua, and McDaniel is going to have to step up. I mean, McDaniel's going to have to change some things. He's not going to be able to run the same offense. And we saw, Bridgewater and oh man, it was just ugly with Bridgewater trying to run that offense. And everybody we had as backups coming in for Tua, it was just always ugly. Skylar, it didn't look good with him. Didn't look good with Bridgewater. And then, and this year, the offense has not found a rhythm at all. They're not able to do as many smoke and mirrors, and defenses are figuring that out. And they're figuring out, hey, if we give them the boundary, they won't attack us on the boundary as often, and it's proven true. Miami's not able to attack on the boundary as much because that's pretty much Tua's limitation. So, like, are they going to be able to do that with Skylar? What are they going to adjust to? What are there going to be the adjustments? And we can't just go to a run-heavy offense because we're not built for run-heavy offense. So how do you get the playmakers the ball with Skylar? And I don't have a whole lot of faith, to be honest. But I do agree, like, this is where your leaders need to step up. This is where your captains need to play and not be the ones that fold. They need to step up, and it's what we need to see the most. Like, where's the leadership on this team? We got a lot of age on this team, but where's the leadership? And this is where that needs to happen. But at the same time, your quarterback play, it's probably going to take a dive. So we're going to see where we are from there. but we're really going to find out the true character of this team and the true character of like Tyreek, who keeps taking himself out of games, especially the tougher games. I've noticed that the more physical games, he takes himself out more. So I'm really curious to see how he does when he's getting frustrated and everything, which I think he's starting to. I think that's why he's starting to pull himself out, because he's running so many deep routes and he's getting gas and he's just pulling himself out of the game, and he's just because he's not getting the ball.
Okay, Greg, your turn again.
I think I'm back, and
You're back. You're back clear.
So not quite sure what happened there, but for me, the big difference between week 1 and week 2, I don't think the team played great either week.
No.
But in week 1, the big players made big plays. All right, we got sacks late in the game by Phillips. We got, Sealer made a play to get Agba a sack. Tyreek Hill caught an 80-yard touchdown pass. Jalen Waddle caught a 60-yarder. Things like that. You need your big players, especially now with a backup quarterback, to step up and make big plays. The big plays are still going to be out there to make. Skylar might miss a few throws, things like that. But for the most part, those plays are still going to be out there to be made. And the question is whether they're going to make them or not. And there's nothing within these next 4 weeks, these next 4 teams, that scares me or anything like that.
This is the softest part of the schedule.
It's the softest part of the schedule. You could, you could make that argument that this is the easiest part of the schedule. So if you wanted to play a backup quarterback, now is the time to play it. All right. But players need to make plays. I mean, this is the NFL, and games come down to players making plays. All right. We saw, Saquon Barkley a couple of weeks ago, or on Monday night, I believe. He catches the ball, game's over.
But that was a bad call. We all know that was a bad call.
It was a bad call, but it was still a player not making a play when he should have. And
that's another head coach on the hot seat, right? That coach is lost also. Something's been. Let me ask you on a side note. Let me ask you, Brett, because I know you're tied to it a little bit because you're a little bit closer. No, well, obviously we'd like to talk about that, but there's something been off about this team, about those Eagles for the last, I would say, dozen games. What is going on there?
There seems, from what I gather,
last year and now this year,
there's a major disconnect with the coaching staff and the direction of the team, honestly. They've been through this before, but they never really went that bad with Andy Reid. They were always a good team, always a winning team. They only had 2 losing seasons with Reid. That was his first year, and I want to say 2006 when McNabb got hurt. That was the only losing seasons they had. But after the Super Bowl, they kind of had a down year. And they came back up, but they were kind of transitioning. I don't know that this is really a transition because they still have their talent there. They still have a lot of talent. They're still loaded, but I think they lost a little bit on the defense, and I think they're still trying to build that back up. But it just doesn't feel like
they missed. I think they regret trading him.
And I also think that that Nick Sirianni's kind of losing the team a little bit. So they still. I don't think Sirianni's the right coach. I think him and Peterson had a talented squad that they took far to the Super Bowl, and I think they caught fire at the right time. But I don't know that they're the right coaches for the job at the same time.
Okay. And you, Greg?
I don't understand what their identity on offense is anymore.
Yeah.
When they went to the Super Bowl, their identity on offense was Jalen Hurts, make plays with your legs, make play with your arms outside of the pocket. We have these 2 really good wide receivers on the outside, and they basically lacked a little bit of talent at running back. But they go to the Super Bowl, okay? And for some reason here in the last year and the beginning of this year, they believe that now all of a sudden they should be a running team and give the ball to their running back. And I like Saquon Barkley. He's a good player, but you still are going to live or die basically on Hurts. The quarterback and making plays on the outside. And at some point, you got to give him the ball and say, make plays.
Right.
And I really think they've lost their identity on offense. And to tie that back into the Miami.
There we go.
All right. To tie it back into Miami, I think Miami's lost their identity on offense here the last 5 weeks. 2 weeks this year and the last 3 or 4 weeks last year.
Yeah.
You know what I think part of it is? If you compare both of them, now that you say that, they lost their identity. It almost feels like both teams lost their confidence in their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's what it really feels like. Because I mean, that's usually when you lose your identity, when you start losing your confidence in your quarterback. Like, now what? I'm not saying that's long term with Hurts or anything, but it does kind of feel that way.
No, it's there was a big thing out online this week about cover 2 defense, and Mel Kiper saying the dumb thing about outlawing the cover 2 defense and stuff like that.
We didn't see it in the 90s and 80s, Greg. What was the difference then?
The cover 2 has only been around forever, okay, and nobody's ever bitched about it before.
Tony Dungy said he brought it from the Steelers when he played safety there and coached there in the 70s to Tampa.
Yeah, it's not like this big new thing, okay? Yeah. But it looks like, in my opinion, Miami has gone down the rabbit hole. Okay, everybody's playing too deep. Everybody's giving everybody safety help. They're way back, okay? And basically, all of the old intelligence tells you have to run against that, okay? That's not true.
No.
Okay, you don't have to run, but that's the mindset that they've come in, and honestly,
that was Gase's problem. He always did that stuff.
But if you look at the stats in Miami's actually ran the ball pretty well, the last 5 games. If you count the last 3 last year, the last 2 regular season and playoff, and the 2 this year. Okay, but they're averaging 14 points a game. They're 1-4 in those games now, and they're averaging 14 points a game. You're not going to win in the NFL averaging 14 points a game. And there are so many different passing schemes that you could run on offense to combat that defense. And why isn't Miami running any of them?
How ironic is it that the Chargers, who are 2-0, the Bills that are 2-0, they've learned to adapt to the players that they have. They throw when they need to throw. They throw deep. They do what they need to do. Like, I honestly don't get what he's doing, and you know how I feel about him. No, but they've completely lost their identity. When I watch the Miami Dolphins on offense, I'm bored again. It's almost as bad as Brian Flores. I had more excitement on our offense with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, I don't know what happened to the identity. I understand why they're doing it, and I know why they're giving him the second read by leaving Achane behind the line of scrimmage and throwing him those passes. But you want to know what? I don't care if they're 2 safety deep. You have 2 of the fastest wide receivers in the league. Challenge them. Just because they're standing there doesn't mean you don't hit. That's like saying, I'm going to play baseball, and I have a left fielder, a center fielder, and a right fielder, and I'm never going to hit. I'm only going to try to hit to the gaps. Like, be aggressive. You could hit over their head.
Again, it's going to come back to your quarterback's limitations as part of it, part of this, not just bashing Tua here, but your quarterback's limitations of his ability to throw the ball deep.
You're never late.
What's up, Steve? His ability to, because he has a strong arm. He could throw it deep. Yeah, a lot of quarterbacks can throw it deep, but he can't launch the ball. Like, he can't afford to be late. Like, guys like Rodgers and Herbert, even Brady and Manning, Brett Favre used to do it all the time, which drove coaches nuts. Patrick Mahomes, guys with a strong arm could afford to be late, especially over the middle. Tua can't. So when that middle gets really tight, he gets very uncomfortable because he knows what his limitations of his arm are. And he knows he has to be on time when throwing deep at the same time, to especially the outside of the numbers, because he knows that if he's late, the safeties have a chance to break on the ball because everything's in front of them. And throwing behind them is not that easy. We saw Tyreek beat the cover 2. He beat deep. Yeah.
Twice.
He was open deep, and Tua overthrew him. He had a step on the safety and a step on the corner, and that was that early in the game and he faded outside.
He did it twice, Jacksonville and
I don't know why Tua's doing that, why he's faded outside, not hitting up the railroad tracks, because the way I understand, the way I've been taught, like, when you're doing that and he beats it, get straight up the field, not fade him out. and they said like with the hash marks, like I think it was TJ or JT O'Sullivan
He's
was
throwing
out
outside the
on the
numbers.
railroad
He's not throwing
tracks,
inside the numbers.
and I'm like, dude, just do it, and then he throws it outside. It's like that's where the limitations come into play, and Skylar has the same limitations. So when you ask like with
But a better arm.
all
But a
these
better
teams
arm.
that do that, well, they're able to because the quarterback has the arm to do it, and Burrow is one of the ones that doesn't, but Burrow also has the ability to maneuver, find guys open. When I watched that Chiefs and Bengals game, I'm watching it like this is not a high scoring game, but it's an exciting game. To your point about the offense being boring, it wasn't high scoring.
No.
Both teams made mistakes. Both quarterbacks made mistakes. They had some struggles with the offensive line, but they made plays and they made the offensive line better by moving, and they kept it going. And it was like that's something that's like, why can't we see that in Miami? It's not about like scoring 100 points or 70 points.
Talk about a battle. Have you ever seen two worst tackles in the Kansas City Chiefs? Those guys were getting penalties every chance they could. They could not hold on. Who was the guy on? Who's that amazing defender on the Bengals?
Hendrickson.
He was driving.
The one I was screaming the sign.
That left tackle. Those two. Was it Kinsley and the other guy? They could not keep him off. Like they were dying. They were dying. And if it wasn't for honestly that one bad pass interference call, but yeah, the guy got there early. But they were maneuvering. Like that was the Bengals deserved to win that game. Like they did deserve.
Yeah. Well, and you know, to one of the ways to beat a cover 2 defense, okay, is extending the play. All right. And to Brett's point earlier about the Bengals and the Chiefs game, that's what Burrow and Mahomes were doing. All right. They were extending the play. When you extend the play, the zone breaks down. Okay. And it gives you more time to do that. But one of the other things that they can both do is they can see somebody open and throw them the ball. Okay. That's not Tua's strengths. Tua's strength is timing and throwing to spots. Okay. Once the play breaks down, that goes away. And one of his things is so far this year, he has been reluctant to extend the play. And by
I don't think
extending
he's able
the
to. I don't think he knows how.
well, is that or McDaniel's drilled into him? If you don't see one, dump it down to HN in the flat. Dump it down to HN in the flat. You even heard McDaniel. You even heard McDaniel say that a couple times over the last couple
today
of weeks.
He said I don't think you had a chance because you were flying maybe. He said Skylar is the only guy outside of Tua who has the anticipation skills to be able to run my offense. And he thinks that, and the comment, and I saw Bret post about this, that Mike McDaniel was dead set in saying only the people, like it's not, no quarterback can just walk in here and run my offense. And I agree with Bret. Like I think it's absolute horse poop. I think you're trying to protect your quarterbacks, or you're overcomplicating it to the point where no, that's where I'm concerned about McDaniel is that anyone should be able to run an offense if they're a capable quarterback. There's not one size fits all. Like you have to be able to adapt.
And that's the thing. They built this offense around Tua's strengths,
which is wrong,
or his limitations. But this is not a full-blown Shanahan style offense either in passing attack. There's some changes in it for Tua, and that's why you see it's like, Tua could run this offense. That's not a good thing.
No,
that's not. That's a bad thing.
Awful.
That's like saying
it's horse crap.
I designed a video game for a 6-year-old for my daughter. It's only for her. No one else can play it. That's not a good thing, right? So, but what I said, I had about 12 guys pop in my head that could run this offense, and ones who have run the Shanahan system before, like Brock Purdy, obviously, even Jimmy G, Matt Stafford. But then you got Derek Carr killing it in the Clint Kubiak offense, which is slightly, even believe it or not, even though it's from the same thing, it's a little bit different than the Shanahan offense, slightly. And then you have. Oh man, there's so many, like Aaron Rodgers. There's so many. There's about 12 of them. I can't think of the top of my head now, but it just kept going. I'm like, well, not any quarterback can run it. That's not what I believe. I mean, that's just a stupid thing to say. But there's a lot, in my opinion, because when you're saying just Tua can, well, if I can come up with 12 off the top of my head, then that's a lot more than one. That's almost half the league. So that's still a lot of quarterbacks who could run it.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion. So I don't think that and if that's the case, that McDaniel feels that, only two guys can run my offense, well, then your offense is not doing good, because
No.
you should be able to vary. You should have a system that you have guys that fit, but a good quarterback should be able to run almost any system.
Straight up, let me ask you, Greg, who's a better quarterback? No matter the system, right now is Sky, and we're going to get to Skylar Thompson in more detail for the upcoming weeks. Is of the two active quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, is he the best quarterback we have, or is he the second best quarterback we have?
Huntley's shown more.
Is Huntley better? Brett, is Huntley better?
Huntley has shown more.
Yeah, I like
talent-wise. Talent-wise, is he? But by the way, did you hear what he said today? He wanted to be drafted by the Dolphins. He went to Hallandale High.
That and the Dolphins actually were interested in him.
Yeah. I mean, Huntley has proven more in the league so far. So I would say that Huntley is probably the better quarterback. But going back to the previous topic about only two guys can run this offense, all right? That's because of all the damn smoke and mirrors and all the motions and everything else. That's all terminology, okay? That's all understanding timing the snap to the optimal position of the motion, okay? That takes practice.
Yeah.
And that's something that Huntley or Aaron Rodgers or whoever else that you want to bring in, it's going to take time, because it's the smoke and mirrors is so prevalent in this. I mean, we can't even run a run play without a tight end doing a short motion to move like 4 feet, to set himself up on a block to run a simple dive, for lack of a better term. All right. And it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Or
trying to get them out in space because they're not athletic enough to beat some of the safeties.
You have to motion somebody every play to give those people an advantage. And it's just when the offense is working, it looks great. When the offense doesn't work, you're going, what are we doing? All right. It's not gaining us an advantage. And that's the part that I've been frustrated with so far this year, is he's introduced these short 3 or 4 step motions before the snap of the ball on running plays that I guess are trying to help the blocks, and it's not working.
Yeah. So let's talk about Mike McDaniel before we get to Skylar Thompson, the game, and then we'll obviously talk about our depth, all that. I agree with a lot of people who have been posting about the fact that I think people shouldn't read into why he's so confused. People are referring back to his past and all that, which I think is inappropriate, because I have my own issues with Mike McDaniel, as you guys all know. But my concern about him, and actually, I don't love the fact that Tua's coming to the game. I think that's a distraction for the Dolphins, that he's coming on the plane, and the fact that he's there. Maybe he'll support them, but I think it's actually a little bit more of a distraction, because everyone's going to be focused on Tua versus on the team. I think that's a little frustrating, but that's just my opinion. But I just think Mike McDaniel is just like totally in a fog right now, and he can't get out of it. And he's just basically in a little bit of denial about the fact that maybe he isn't as smart of a football coach as he thinks he is. Because like you saw with what's his name, JD was saying, I believe Bradshaw. I don't know if you guys saw the podcast that Steve even shared with me with Fearless Army with Jason Whitlock, where basically they called Mike McDaniel. He called Mike McDaniel his name was John. I forget his last name, but he basically called Mike McDaniel an Excel spreadsheet guy, an accountant, a guy who was put in the position of offensive coordinator so he can get a head coaching job. He's not the one calling the plays. Same thing with Kevin O'Connell. Same thing with Eric Bieniemy. Steve talked about it a little bit. So for Mike McDaniel, I think he's a nice guy. I think he is a great play designer. I've said this so many times, but I believe that this is the best thing that could have happened to him, was Tua getting injured again. because this is now his opportunity at the softest part of the schedule. Is Skylar Thompson someone you could develop? If you are capable, if everyone says, if you're able to resurrect Tua Tagovailoa into your system, and now you have a quarterback in his third year of your system who won you, got you into the playoffs on a 9-6 win, who basically got you 3 points away, which we'll talk about later in the Buffalo game, even though he was 18 for 44 and totally inaccurate. What is up with Mike McDaniel? Do you believe he can turn this around? And if he can turn this around, can he turn it around with the current offense and fitting Mike and getting Skylar Thompson to run what Tua was running? Or do you think that he has to totally adjust his playbook and the mentality on how he runs an offense for the next 4 weeks to adapt to the quarterback? And I also think he maybe needs to tweak it a little bit for when Tua comes back, because we know Tua is going to come back. So what do you got? Because I'm concerned about Mike McDaniel strictly from the fact that I don't think he's able to adjust, and I think he quits, and I think he doesn't have that ability. The reason I always think about this is, and I'm sure you guys all saw this, and I'll let you guys both speak. Remember that game in the playoff game where Chad Henne came into the game, the ball was on the 2 or 3 yard line of Kansas City in a playoff game because Patrick Mahomes got injured, and he ran them down the field like he was Patrick Mahomes. And it didn't matter. And it was Chad Henne. He was 38 years old at the time. So if Andy Reid can do that, and coaches can do that, where you could bring in somebody, and the talent on the field was not so superior than what the Dolphins have now. They had Pacheco, they had Kelsey, they had what? Tell me what Mike McDaniel is doing wrong. Are you concerned about him, and can he fix this?
You got to have a couple things. You got to have guys prepared that know their job, that know the system. You have to know what plays you can call for those guys in that given situation. And also, this is just me, Andy Reid has put in a system in Kansas City like he had in Philadelphia. Like so they know what they have. So for them, it's not like who they're drafting and all that. Like, well, we're going to change this up for this head coach or for that head coach. We have a different philosophy from Philbin to Gase to Flores to McDaniel, right? You don't have that anymore. Like with Kansas City and Philly, even in Philly, it's still there. Baltimore, you don't have that. You still have like a philosophy, and that's what they stick with. So like they know what they have. Now the other teams that have that, like their backup quarterbacks are prepared. They're getting the reps in practice. They're also getting them they're making it so that they understand the offense, so that they understand what they're expected to do. Now, if Henne stayed in for the entire game, we probably wouldn't have seen that, or for multiple games, you probably would have started to see the limitations. But Andy Reid's smart. He knows, well, hey, now that he's in, I'm going to go ahead and just encompass the plays that work for him and make everything work that way. So that's kind of how like I've always like seen that, and that's why teams that have a backup, like again, Philadelphia went to the playoffs and won a Super Bowl with backup quarterbacks, right? But their system, their team, though, they're built very well. Again, Kansas City's also built very well, and we just don't have that at all. We're just kind of like hodgepodge, shotgunned everything together. Let's make it work, and all this is our identity. I don't know what the hell our identity is anymore, and that's a part of it too. And how can you have anybody, no matter who your quarterback is, come in and do anything if you don't even have an identity? So.
Well, there's a couple things here for me. All right. McDaniel is at a point where he doesn't know what to do. He's even said it in his press conferences that until you beat the defense that they're playing, they're never going to get out of it. Right. Mm-hmm. He with the personnel that he has right now on the field and that he's coaching, he doesn't know how to beat this defense. Okay. And like we were talking about earlier, it goes back to last season even. All right. He had an entire off season to figure this out. And he hasn't yet. The first 2 weeks have shown that he hasn't. And I think that's wearing on him. Okay. I also think that he is feeling additional pressure because he signed the extension. Oh, yeah. He's got all of the other things. The meltdown about all these people counting on him and things like that, I think was pretty telling. but the identity is not going to change or anything like that, depending on the quarterback. Okay, the defense isn't going to play Skylar Thompson any different than they've been playing Tua. There's no reason to. Okay, because even Skylar Thompson can hit Tua. I mean, not Tua, but Hill or Waddle on a deep throw every now and then. He is a professional quarterback. He can make a play every now and then, and that's what the defenses are scared about. But if you think about it, the Chad Henne example that you just put out there, okay, the defense might have changed there. Okay, Patrick Mahomes goes out and they're like, okay, Kansas City's going to start trying to run the ball now because they got Chad Henne in there. And then Andy Reid switches it up and says, okay, you're going to bring this extra guy down in the box. That gives Chad Henne a bigger area to throw into. He's a capable guy. Let's start calling some easy passes for him to get some completions on, right? Andy Reid's thinking that next level. That's not going to happen with the Dolphins because, again, they're not concerned about Achane running the ball. Okay? Defenses are not concerned with Mostert running the ball. He's the third or fourth person on the field that the defense, wants to have the ball. All right? The defense is scared to death about Hill and Waddle getting deep and making a play. And they have every reason to be scared to death because they can change the game on one play. All right? Yeah. That doesn't change with the quarterback. So I'm really interested to see what adjustments McDaniel is going to make, not only on the offense, but for Skylar Thompson as well.
Now, I'm going to say,
are there going to be different routes? Are there going to be different types of throws that they're going to attempt, on Sunday? I'm not impressed with Seattle. Okay, Seattle's 2-0. All right, and It's a long trip and stuff, but this is a game that's winnable, even with a backup quarterback.
It is the loudest stadium.
Absolutely,
it's the loudest stadium you're going to go in.
Yes,
but it is, like Greg said, it's definitely a winnable game.
But they have a lot of injuries, which we're going to talk about. They have a lot of guys out.
But again, because it's how loud it is and stuff like that, scale back the motions, scale back all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you are as talented as what you think you are, line up, play football, make it simple for Thompson to do things, to make plays. And I want to see if that's actually what happens. So we'll see.
I think these guys could do that. Still, my biggest issue is the limitation we have at tight end. We are going into this week with only 3 healthy wide receivers. So curious
4.
What they're going to do. Who's the 4th?
They're going to elevate Uzukama.
Oh, okay. Because what I was just reading is they have 3 as of right now.
Yeah, they have Barrios, Hill, and Waddle, and they're going to have to elevate. Who's the other guy? I forget who else they have on the practice.
Malik Washington.
He's out. He's out. Yeah, the boat is out. It's either Izukama or this other guy. I forget his name. Who's on the practice.
So it's like it's insane how many injuries and how banged up and how. I'm not saying they should play these guys like banged up, but I think now they're being over precautious with the injuries. But the one thing I like about Skylar that I don't see from Tua is Skylar doesn't panic or freak out.
He jumps out of the pocket. He has happy feet.
He has
the
happy
moment
feet.
He sees pressure, he runs away.
But that's more of an athlete thing than it is freaking out. He's not afraid to take a shot, get hit. He's not afraid.
He's a warrior. He's a warrior.
He can throw an interception, and he'll come back the next play. They'll tell him to run that same exact play against the same coverage, but they'll say this time do this instead. And he'll do it. He does not. He's not afraid to do that again.
He's not afraid.
So that's the one thing about Skylar I like. But when he runs out of the pocket, it's not fear. It's probably more a lack of preparation. But it's more of his athleticism wanting to move.
But that's not a bad thing because you need to change the shape of the secondary. Okay, The Miami offense is stale in the passing game because the secondary is really not having to do much when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
When you get out of the pocket, all right, and you get on the edge, the shape changes, and then you could potentially make another play. We haven't seen any of that with Tua the first 2 weeks. We didn't see any of it last year.
It's Elkridge. Yeah, you're right, Steve.
Yeah. All right.
Oh
So,
yeah, I forgot about Elkridge.
yeah. So you know, if Thompson,
Thank you, Steve.
if Thompson could do that, if he can get outside and change the shape of the secondary, there's potential plays that can be made.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, moving in the pocket, extending plays, that's how you beat cover two.
Yes. If your initial read is not there, there's nothing. Yeah, if that initial read is not there, there's nothing wrong with getting outside of the pocket and extending the play and changing the shape of the zone.
Thank you.
You know.
No,
and the other, real quick, the other thing too is I don't have a problem with some of the check downs and throwing it down and screens and the short passes. I don't have problems with that because that's how you sustain drives. It's an extension to the run game, and that's how you. That's also how you get safeties to cheat up and come down and start saying fine. Because Rodgers made a career doing that, just underneath. Safeties are starting to cheat up. All he needs is half a step. Boom, I got you. I beat you. Greg Jennings over the top. Jordy Nelson over the top. So that was something that like you could do, but you can't rely on that all the time. Like you have to be able to change it up and be multiple, which we know this team is not multiple. But that's where like at least Skylar Thompson can maneuver in the pocket because one thing I stress is defenses no matter what is a quarterback who maneuvers the pocket.
Right. There's something else though that's if you watch the games, the first two games this year, and you listen to McDaniel made a statement. I can't remember when it was. It was sometime after Buffalo, where he said that Hill and Waddle came back and said, hey, the defense is not reacting to any play action. We need to run the ball. Okay. Defenses are now coaching, hey, linebackers, don't step up. Until you see the handoff, don't step up. Safeties are not reacting up hardly at all. Okay. So there's basically a level of defense that Tua's used to throwing behind, but now they're deeper. And he doesn't know what to do. And McDaniel doesn't know what to do. And it's interesting. It's the the three-dimensional chess game that's going on the football field right now. And we're basically almost in a checkmate situation. And McDaniel doesn't know what to do and how to get out of it right now.
And so, I don't know.
How does he get out of it? You guys are both analytical people. You don't look at it from an emotional. Both of you are not emotional fans. You guys look at it and you break things down.
Like how they get out of it.
How does Mike McDaniel fix this? How does he take the offense that he has, the talent he has on the field, and run a 60-minute like a 60-minute game because right now they're averaging 14 points a game with Tua in the lineup. So now with Skylar Thompson in the lineup, how does he adjust and win football games over the next 4 weeks?
So, first off,
as a coach,
Coach Jay, Ben, T-Dobbs, nice to have you with us. Steve, I always talk to you.
I paid Ben, my employee, to say I've been number one every show.
Yeah, I figured Ben. All right, but
that's smart.
I know.
So the offense with Tua running it the last couple of years has basically been an individual matchup type offense, and what I mean by that is they're not stacking routes. They're not doing anything like that. They're running. There's not a high-low option on a lot of the routes. All right. When you want to get to beat a two deep zone, especially in the middle of the field, you got to basically do it at different levels. You got to have receivers at different levels. You got to attract the eyes up so that you can throw deep. And if they stay deep, then you hit it underneath and you take your 7-8 yard gain. Okay. That's not the way McDaniel has structured this offense in the past. You can also attack if you want to keep your isolated one-on-ones you can start attacking deeper in the field. And we've talked about this before, between the numbers and the sidelines at the safety level. Okay, that part of the field is open as well. But the route combinations, in my mind right now, you have to start stacking. All right, you can't. You have to. A mirror route. A short slant with a deeper slant, or a short slant with a post behind it. All right, and isolate one of those middle defenders. Okay, I just don't see that happening. All right, because right now it's not the way McDaniel structures his offense. His offense is structured around quick motions, moving somebody around, basically finding the gap, and then exploiting it very quickly. You can't necessarily do that with a two deep zone, and that's the part that is messing with McDaniel's head right now.
And the other thing too is, and Greg, you know this, that a lot of offenses and a lot of different play calls and passing attacks will have a route that will beat man, a route that beats zone, and routes that could be either one depending on what they give you, and not. It's not all the time that the entire defense will run zone. Sometimes they'll run man to this side or man to this look and zone to this look. It just really depends. Or they'll run like a man zone. So there's a lot of variations. It gets very complicated where it's like they're man in this situation, but if the defense or if the receiver just do this, they switch the zone, and it's like one of those complex things where it does get hard for a quarterback to read it. But like I don't see a lot of that in like you said, McDaniel's offense. And there's not a whole lot of like zone beaters. A lot of it's predicated around beating man. And you see them against zone. And I don't know where this came from last year. Everybody was saying, Tua is really good at beating zone. Like, Tua is very good at beating man because no matter what you do with Tyreek, he's going to beat man. That's dangerous to put a man corner on him. But now, what's up, Bobby? But now,
Bobby, can you come in and fix, because you didn't set up the right imaging for us, or I'm blocking your beautiful banners. You were in charge of this last week, and you didn't do it last week. So El Jefe, come fix this when you have a moment.
But yeah, this is what I noticed too, and that's kind of like puts it in perspective for me what Greg was saying.
Yeah,
like it's not like basically what Greg is saying when he said you're pretty much stressing one of the middle defenders by doing like a post behind a slant or double slants, and basically making that defender say, I'm going to have to take one of these routes away, but now I'm leaving this one-on-one, or this is an open zone. He's got to vacate his zone to cover that, and then now there's an opening in the zone. But that would be a zone beater, and like he said, you don't see that, and it's too easy for defense just to roll coverage to Waddle and Tyreek, and it's like, all right, now what are you going to do, Tua? You're going to beat us with Durham Smythe? Good luck.
Well, yeah, and you have to be able, you have to accept the shorter pass.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
and that's what's happening.
And you have to accept it, and you have to beat it. But if you're going to layer it, you can layer it with Waddle and Hill.
Yeah.
Okay. You can have Hill sit down in a short zone and run Waddle behind it. All right. You have to stress the defense. You have to stress the zone defender and where you want to go. And I don't see that. I don't see that happening right now.
Right. Yeah. And again, we have some backs that have some ability, and Achane that you can throw the ball to, and he can make some things happen, and that's great. But defenses will take that all day. You don't want to throw the ball. Correct. We have a much better chance of you throwing it to Achane because that's in front of us. Yes. That's in front of us. Like at most, he's going to be 5 yards behind the line or past the line of scrimmage. Other than that, you're probably not running them out. Now, what I'd like to see more of is how they use Tanner Connor out wide, creating some mismatches with his size out wide.
Over talked about a guy who hasn't done anything.
Well,
yet.
It's not so much like him in general. It's just the way they use the tight end, like Jonnu Smith or anybody, just create that mismatch outside to be the third receiver and all that stuff. But I haven't seen him do it. No creativity, so they might have to do that stuff.
But I want to ask you guys a point. I know because we like talking about the NFL as a whole. You talked about how they want you to run the ball. I don't know if you know this. There's a team that's 0-2 right now that has a quarterback that Bret is a big fan of. He doesn't live very far. Every time they've gone 0-2, they haven't made the playoffs. Yeah. They signed a player who is a star player who you want to play for, who you want to utilize. And the reason why I believe they're 0-2 is even though they have a philosophy, they brought in a star player and they're not using him properly. They brought in Derrick Henry, but they're still doing the same nonsense that hasn't gotten them to the Super Bowl yet with Lamar. And I believe that's why they're struggling.
Yeah.
I believe that's why they're struggling in my mind.
No, sorry.
Derrick Henry has not been utilized the way he's supposed to be utilized.
There it is.
So far this season, yeah, no, he's the best. He's the best. He had to add a
Love
view.
you, Bobby.
He had to add a view. Like I tried to adjust it. He did something, and he'll teach me how to do it because there's different shapes at the bottom, and I tried to play each one, but he shrunk it somehow. He's a genius.
But with that,
Don't give him enough credit.
Real quick on that, Greg probably touched more on that, but it does feel like they're trying to be something they're not built for. I understand why, because it's the way the NFL is, the NFL rules are, so they want to be more pass heavy. But I feel like they kind of get away from the run almost too much. But I don't want to say like running the ball is how you win football games because we were just talking about that. But it's almost like they kind of like get away from it almost too much where they have the ability to run the football and it works. So like I think the Ravens know what their identity is, but they kind of step away from it a little bit and try to get like too cute. But I think they're a team that will fix that and kind of get back to what they do.
Greg, do you want to respond and also give a comment to this? What T. Dobbs has to say?
So I raise this as a big picture all the time. Okay, do you run the offense that you think could win a Super Bowl, or do you run the offense that you think could win a regular season game? Do you get good at it? You know what's the ultimate goal? Okay, I think Baltimore could give the ball to Henry more, but I also think you're not going to win by giving the ball to Henry. Lamar's still got to be your playmaker, and he's still got to be the primary focus of your offense if you want to win that Super Bowl. Okay, yeah. Henry's got to be a complementary player, not a frontline player.
Yeah, but they're not using him at all.
Right. All right. So maybe they need to get used to him a little bit. But that goes back to kind of like the Saquon Barkley Philadelphia Eagle talk as well. What are you? Okay, what do you want to be? What's going to be your identity? What T. Dobbs mentions here is a lot of the teams over the first couple. This is McDaniel's third year. All right, this is his 36. He's got 36 games in. All right, for about the first 30 games. Yeah. All right, they fell for the motions and things like that. Now they're not. Okay, and there's a lot more zone being played, a lot more too deep and things, and those little cheat motions to get people open against man just aren't as effective right now. And because that's the way he sees offense, that he needs that stuff. He's really struggling with how to get over this. The last 5 games, they've averaged 14 points. They're 1-4. They've been outscored by 81 points over that 5-game period. All right, they have not been good offensively, and I think it's just because defenses are like, we're just not going to react to this stuff anymore. There's no need to.
He's boring. I think it sort of reminds me, Brett, of his press conferences where they used to be funny. They used to be cute and just like their offense, but now it's stale.
Well, a lot of people said that, like, McDaniel's quirkiness is cool now, but wait till you lose. Wait until like you're losing, or stuff hits the fan, and now you're like kind of like, okay, enough quirky. Let's get down to business. What's the answers? And that's what we're about to find out. And his whole mantra on the HBO.
Hard Knocks.
Yeah, Hard Knocks. Thank you. I forgot the name of that.
No problem. I'm here. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
But his whole there's opportunity in whatever it was. I don't even remember. It was such a silly mantra that he tried to push, and it's just I get it, but like the words mean so little. You guys know the saying, you're talking so loud, your accents are so loud I can't hear what you're saying.
Yep.
So it's like for me, it's like this whole Dolphins team and the fan base and everything. It's the accents are so loud. I don't hear what they're saying because, yeah, you want to say all this stuff about like this is the best team we ever had. This is the most talented. And then yet on the field, where it looked like the same thing that we had with Adam Gase, with Brian Flores, with Joe Philbin, Tony Sperano. You notice a trend here. All these coaches, it comes back to the philosophy of the team. Like
there is no philosophy.
The 49ers, like they have talented wide receivers, right? But their receivers get open. They make plays and all this stuff. Why? Well, because they don't need all the gadgets, the smoke and mirrors that Greg said. And the one thing, they still do a lot of motions and stuff, but they don't rely on it. And I remember listening to Aaron Rodgers talking about the difference between the West Coast offense and the Shanahan offense. And I think I talked about this a few times where he's just like, all right, enough with the motions and stuff. Let's get a rhythm going. Let's forget that. And he told Nathaniel Hackett, like, kill the motions. Let's stop. Let's just do on a 2-minute drill. Let's just line up and play football. And that's what they did a little bit. And that's what they're doing with the Jets, where there's times where they're like, when Rodgers like, we don't need motion. We're not going to get like, let's just get a rhythm going, and then we can start doing some motions and different things like that. And that aspect too of Hackett understanding with the Jets, hey, Rodgers doesn't like to always run motion. We like our offense is built on that, so we can kind of intermingle that. And all of a sudden, is now we have an offense that can click. So that can be dangerous for the Jets, but it works for the Packers too.
Okay, Greg, are you back? Are you frozen?
Can you hear us, Greg? We might be.
You might be adjusting. So let me ask you. Okay.
I
So fix yourself, and I'll
I
continue.
think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but
we got you.
There you go. There you go. So do you hear what Bret just said?
Not a whole lot of it.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I got.
Basically, was talking about the smoke and mirrors.
He was really talking about smoke and mirrors and how Aaron Rodgers told Nathaniel Hackett, run the 2-minute offense, focus and stop within and just keep it simple. Because the Shanahan offense is So because one thing I want to say before you go is like if you remember with San Francisco, it didn't matter if it's Elijah Mitchell. All that Christian McCaffrey did was elevate their offense, but it fit into the scheme because it didn't matter if it was Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., Elijah Mitchell. Didn't matter who. Now Mason. It didn't matter. Their identity is a stout offensive line that can run the ball down your throat. And then that's what leaves. Have you seen how good Jennings is there now? Deshaun Jennings is a phenomenal receiver because he's open at the right time because they're not expecting the ball to go to him. And Debo has these moments because they are complementary players to the offense.
Right.
Because you know what they're doing? Because people know they're going to run, and they run. So you know what the Dolphins should be doing? You have the 2 fastest wide receivers in football. Throw the goddamn ball.
Yes.
What do you think Greg's been saying?
No, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. You know, the great thing about the San Francisco offense right now, okay, with McCaffrey in there, okay, is they got 5 players who can really hurt you at the skill positions, okay, and then I've talked about this in the past. If the defenses take away players, they don't take away schemes. No. All right. And when you put them in a bind and you got 5 players who can hurt you on the field at the same time, it's then a pick your poison. And then it's really up to the quarterback to understand what the defense is doing and who they're trying to take away. And then where do I go from there? Okay. Miami is so top heavy with Hill and Waddle that everybody else is below them, way below them, in my opinion. Okay, so there's nothing.
H.N.'s mid, but yes, he's still a skilled player.
He's a skilled player. He can be dangerous, but he's so far below on the pecking order of Hill and Waddle that the defenses aren't changing. Okay,
no, they're not afraid of him. They're not afraid of him.
So that against San Francisco, the defense might come up and say, "This play, we're not letting McCaffrey hurt us." And if Purdy recognizes that, he can say, okay, I can go to Debo, I could go to Ayuk, I could go to Jennings, or something like that,
You
right?
forgot about Kittle.
Well, I was going there, right? So the next
I
time,
knew he was going to bring it up.
Or
yeah.
check,
So
or
the next,
use check, or use check.
yeah, but the next play, there might be saying, okay, we're not going to Samuel and Ayuk aren't going to hurt us. Let's see if they hand the ball off to McCaffrey. But then Purdy will be going, I still don't need to hand the ball off to McCaffrey because I got George Kittle, okay, who's really good, by the way, especially downfield.
Yeah.
And the other really nice thing about the San Francisco offense is Kittle is a matchup nightmare. Okay, if you go small to cover him in the passing game, he'll just run block you and bury you in the dirt, and and basically they can run the ball. If you go big to stop the run, he's uncoverable. You cannot put a linebacker on that guy. So it's Miami doesn't have a player like that per se. Hill's going to beat you in receiving. Waddle's going to beat you in receiving. Achane is a little bit of both, but he's not at that superstar level like Kittle is. Kittle's one of the most complete tight ends that I've seen in the league in the last 15 years. Him and Gronk were basically, they could kill you blocking or they could kill you catching the ball. They're about the only two players in the league.
Gronk just can't play safety.
No.
That's the best. That's all we have to live for in Miami is Gronk falling while playing deep safety.
But no, I mean,
Gronk didn't have the angle.
How did you expect him to have the angle? He had never played safety before in his life. That was I think that might have been Belichick's worst call in his career. Was putting him there.
Well, I don't think he was expecting that to happen.
He wasn't expecting it. Yeah.
Then why was he there to begin with?
No, he was there for the jump ball. He was expecting a jump ball. He didn't. He wasn't expecting to tackle a running back coming at him.
Yeah, great Kenyon Drake. Let's talk about Skylar Thompson for a minute. So his only touchdown was ever scored in that playoff game. He had one touchdown, 2 interceptions, 18 for 44, 230, I think. But I don't know what it is. I think his skills. I think he has the look of. Obviously, he has the look of a quarterback, right? Tua doesn't have that look of a quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. Skylar Thompson is still a molding player. The people still have this mindset. Well, Brock Purdy can do it. This guy was drafted earlier than Brock Purdy. Does he have the skill set? And does he have the mindset, the type, as from what you've seen from him, to be better than this 56% completion percentage? Because I found even last week he was very inaccurate, but I think they all just gave up. But in a full week, knowing that he's about to play, can he be a quarterback that can go 2-2 and 3-1 in the next 4 with the support of his of the talent around him? Is he capable of doing it? And with his skill set,
I'm interested. When he played 2 years ago, he was a rookie. Okay, he was a rookie 7th round pick, not getting snaps and not getting reps in practice. He's a 3rd-year guy now. Okay, he should know the offense like the back of his hand. All right, he should understand the route combinations and things like that. He should know what his reads are. This should not be foreign to him anymore. Okay. That's what I want to see. Okay. If he still looks lost like he did a lot of times as a rookie, yeah, he's not a guy, right? But if he settles down a little bit, he's not going to be a 70% completion guy. He's not going to be, he might be just hanging around 58, 60%. But that's fine if he makes plays. All right? That's fine if he doesn't make turnover worthy plays. All right? The entire point of a backup quarterback is take care of the ball. Don't make turnovers. And if there's a play to be made on occasion, let's make it. He's not a starting quarterback.
No.
All right. But
No.
can he make enough plays with the talent that's supposedly on this team at wideout, and you're going to have to rely on your defense? Can he make enough plays to win games against this bottom tier of the schedule? Yeah, and I don't between now and when Tua comes back, there's not a team on the schedule that Miami should say we can't beat with Skylar Thompson. That's just not going to, they're not playing Kansas City. They're not playing Baltimore. They're not playing San Francisco or any of those.
They're not even playing the Cardinals, which is a tough
correct. Game. All right. They're not playing those type of teams. These are teams that a backup quarterback on a talented team should be able to beat.
Okay. Bret?
Talent-wise, I that's kind of hard to say. I don't know if he has the talent to, but I will say he's got the talent to make some plays. He's got the talent to make things happen around him and make plays that Tua doesn't. But can he make the high percentage throws? Can he make the reads that keep drives alive? Can he live to see it play another down? I don't mind the gunslinger mentality. Some people are afraid of that. I don't. I'm not afraid of that because if you are so afraid to throw the ball downfield because you're afraid you're going to throw an interception, then just don't play. Don't throw the ball ever because at some point you're going to throw an interception. You're just going to be the receiver's not going to be in the spot you expected them to. Run a different route, a choice route. You're going to ball might slip. You might just not see the safety or linebacker. So that stuff happens. So the more you're afraid to, and that's the one thing I do think that he offers is not being afraid. If he can combine that with knowing where everything is, and it's going to come down to how well he prepares too. I mean, that's the biggest thing too. Like, is he prepared where he knows everything they're going to throw at him? But talent-wise, I'm not saying he has all the talent in the world, but he's a talented kid. He's an athletic kid, a decent arm, and he throws on a run really well. But he doesn't always throw. His ball placement is not always the best either.
He's not very accurate.
No,
he's a backup.
Yeah, he's not a starter in this league, in my opinion.
He's not a starter in this league, but he's capable of winning games.
Yeah,
especially against the bottom teams in the league.
Here's a two-parter, and then we're going to talk about the actual game and then the play. How short? Okay, we know what McDaniel thinks. How short is your leash on Skylar? Meaning that if he goes into this game and throws 15 for 40 for 150 yards and one touch and no touchdowns and 2 picks, that's
a Skylar Thompson line.
Is your quarterback on Monday Night Football against the Titans Skylar Thompson or Tyler Huntley?
How long did he give Chad Henne? Was that? That feels like a Chad Henne stat. Oh my god! Oh,
let me ask you: how short is your leash on Skylar? If he gets his
how much does Tyler Huntley know the offense and how well he knows it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
Well, then again, I mean, if he doesn't,
I don't like the way he's calling.
Can he be that bad?
Can he be worse? Can be worse. Forget our bus. Well, think about this: if Skylar Thompson has a bad game in the Mike McDaniel offense this week and he doesn't adapt, you have to try something new because nothing you're doing is working. That's going to be 6 games in a row where you suck.
Yeah.
If Skylar Thompson lays an egg on Sunday, 3 years into the system and knowing the offense and things like that, Monday Night Football, you gotta go with Huntley, and basically you got to practice 10, 12 plays, and just say these are the plays that we're running. And
I don't think he will.
Well, Huntley's an intelligent guy too. I don't know how much you guys know about Huntley. He's actually a very smart kid.
He's very smart.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that he wants to call himself Snoop.
Well, he went to Utah, and he was talented there and looked good there. He got hurt.
I had to ask you guys this. Because it's the topic that drove me nuts, and I forgot to ask this earlier. Can you explain to me, like I'm a 5-year-old, how you put a player in a game against Buffalo, You give him an important route. He screws up the route, and he can't. And then you cut him from your practice squad. So you have him in the Buffalo game over Eric Uzukama, over Elkridge. You have him on the field on more important plays than Waddle and Hill, but then you outright cut him, not just from the team, from the practice squad. The guy's gonzo. Explain to me the mentality of Mike McDaniel, where you bring in Robbie Chosen, you play him, he screws up, and then you outright cut him. So just basically, that just shows how moronic you are. So tell me, when you saw that this week, what your reaction to that was. Like, they don't even keep him on the practice squad, and we have 3 receivers.
I'm not surprised, but it felt to me McDaniel protecting Tua again. It was Chosen's fault to the interception.
He's gone.
Get out of here.
Exactly.
Well, did he run the wrong route and slip and all that? Yeah, but there was Tua coaching him. Hey, man, you need to come back or whatever. Hey, when you run this route, when you see this, come back. So yeah. That's that whole thing, that interception. You can put that on McDaniel. You can put that on Chosen and Tua.
In the end, it's the quarterback. I believe every interception is the quarterback's fault, no matter what they did. Because if you, in the end, you're the leader of this team. I don't care if they ran the wrong route. You have to take it on the chin.
And he didn't know that the backups were in on those 2 plays. He didn't know that.
Exactly.
He didn't look in the huddle. He didn't see Tyreek and Waddle. He lined up. Oh, that's not Waddle. That's DeBose. Throwing it anyway. You know what I mean? He knew who was running these routes. But that's the thing. Did he? And sometimes I wonder if
he's so robotic.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if he's just kind of going through the notions. Like, okay, I have this route. No matter who you put there, I have this route. I guess that could be a good and bad thing. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, first new attitude, Robert, Coach Jay. Thanks for joining. Yeah, my initial reaction is that they don't want Tua to. This wasn't Tua's fault. This
all right, I'm not alone. Okay.
Yeah, this because but again, it's I call it the Chase Claypool offense. Okay, the game of football is not played on a whiteboard with a diagram. You can't say that you throw this route to the X wide receiver against this coverage, no matter what. That's not the way the game of football is supposed to be played.
You have to adapt.
You got to adapt. You got to know who's on the field. All right. There's a reason Warabi Chosen and Clace Chaypool, and I still don't know the other guy's name. All right, last week. Okay,
Grant DuBose, who's now out. That was the first question of Barry Jackson. Well, what's the status of Grant DuBose? I hope he's back in Green Bay.
All right.
He hurt his shoulder, okay?
Yeah, Tua threw the ball so hard it hit him in the shoulder.
But there's a reason why they're 150 out of 150 wide receivers in the league. Okay?
Yeah.
They're not good.
No.
All right? You can't expect a bad player to run a good route. If they could run good routes consistently, they wouldn't be bad players. Okay? Yeah. And the game management of McDaniel, clock management, we could go into that again. All right? The clock management, the game management, the player management of this team and that quarterback is driving me nuts lately. Tua threw 2 interceptions against Buffalo because he wasn't managing the game. I don't understand in critical situations why you're throwing to those wide receivers.
Hey, I think not tonight, Greg, but I think maybe another episode we need to reiterate what you're talking about when managing the game. So we'll talk about that next week, because that's going to be, because that right there, when you gave us that definition of it after the whole Chase Claypool play, when you gave us that definition, it made all of us kind of sit back like, that's a completely different way to look at game management. And holy hell, that was like, eye-opening. And then when you're talking about this, it just makes a lot of sense. Like he should know who's on the field, who's running those routes, and how he needs to adjust to those routes. And when you sit back and think about it, a veteran quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, he knows, okay, that's Anthony Gonzalez, that's not Marvin Harrison. So I need to adjust how I throw it to him. Or, hey, he's in practice, he's kind of like bending that route, or he's not quite as fast. So he understands that. And that's something that Tua just didn't.
Has
And
Tua called an audible ever?
I don't know.
He's never changed the play at the line of scrimmage ever. Not that we could tell.
Well, first of all, you need to be able to get up to the line of scrimmage and run all your motions and shifts and have more than 3 seconds on the play clock to change the play. All right. But
well, it's funny on that, Coach Jay, before the not the chosen play, but the Grant DeBose interception, I watched Tyreek on the telecast take himself out of the game.
Yeah.
And then I saw the next play was interception. So I am also frustrated with Tyreek and Waddle on these interceptions that they weren't on the field, and these were like key downs. So I will say I am frustrated with the receivers as much as I am with Tua throwing them, if that makes sense, because they should be on the field. We need you on the field, and you guys aren't. Oh,
yeah. And to T. Dobbs' point, right? You could only run a timing routes and spot throws and things like that with guys that you practice with. How often does Tua practice with Chosen running the route that he needs to run? And
Skylar would have been better off with Chosen.
Correct.
Yeah, you're right.
Skylar's probably thrown more passes to Chosen in practice.
Which is why a lot of us said, hey, Washington and Izukama, if they were both healthy for this game, Skylar might have a great game with
I think Easy E is going to be his number one weapon on Sunday.
Very well could be. And I would love to see it because it gives defenses something to think about.
But and if you go way back, okay, I'm going to go way back in the Dolphin lore, okay? Mark Duper basically got on the field his rookie year about halfway through the field because Dan Marino would work with him after practice, and Don Shula saw the chemistry that was developing there, and they were like, yeah, we need to put Duper on the field. That's what knocked Nat Maher down to the third wide receiver behind Clayton and Duper, is because of actual working on the timing and stuff like that with Duper. After practice, Shula saw that and was like, okay, yeah, we're going to make this guy a player.
That it wasn't just, hey, if I don't see it in practice, I don't want to see it at all, or you're not going to see it. So
Dan Marino recognized the talent. Yeah. And he was like, okay, let's get this guy up to speed, because look, Nat Moore's a legend. Nat Moore's one of my all-time favorite Dolphins. Don't get me wrong. But when you got Mark Clayton and Mark Duper on, you need to get those guys on the field.
So. And hell, that ended up being a really good trio.
And I wonder what Dan Marino did. Did he run the ball or did he throw it to his wide receivers?
Yes.
Every play.
Every play. So, guys, we're over an hour and 12 minutes into the show. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We still have a lot more to talk about. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So, let's get to the game. So, as of today, injury designations, and then we can sort of talk about it. The designations for the Dolphins right now, everyone's pretty much we have a short. You guys said we were injured. We're really not that injured because Raheem Mostert's out. Raheem Mostert will be out. Grant DuBose is going to be out, and so will Malik Washington.
I think Mostert was still at Disney World with Tua.
Did you see that joke about the fact that I could lead? There's this meme about the fact that McDaniel needs him to be a leader, and he goes, "Yeah, I'll lead my kids. I'll lead my family to Disney World."
Mostert, Tua, and Johnny Smith all with the Disney World. Like, oh, that's how you handle a loss.
Yeah, and then but the Seahawks have a much bigger position, so they are missing 2 linebackers likely or potentially. They have Uchenna Nwazu, who's out for sure with his knee. Last name Baker, remember him? Jerome Baker could be out with a hamstring injury. Kenneth Walker is very likely out with an oblique. They're also missing their offensive tackle. George Fant is likely out with a knee. And then Kevon Wallace, Farrell Brown, Dion Maffei, and Laviska Shenault could be potentially they're questionable right now. So they have a very detailed injury report. Charbonnet can do his job. You're going to have Lockett. You're going to have Metcalf. And you're going to have Geno Smith, who's not been that great. They're 2-0. It's a great place to play, but like you said, there's a beatable team. So what for you guys are the keys to victory, or what do you want to see? Because right now, no one gives the Dolphins a chance in this game. Like we might as Dolphin fans, but like every single pundit, like this is not even going to be close. It's not going to be. This is going to be a mess for the Dolphins traveling across country, even though you've had that long week. But no one gets any because in the narrative, no matter what we all think as Dolphin fans, the world still believes that Tua runs this team, but they seem to be forgetting that for the last 6 games, Tua sucked. Like Tua has actually sucked, like really bad. And I actually think this could help us, and this could be a breath of fresh air to change it up and not be so reliant on your quarterback as much. I mean, your starting quarterback and doing what he always likes to do. So, tell me what do you like about Seattle? What do you and then what do you see as their weaknesses, and what are our keys to victory in this game?
Go ahead, Brett.
So I think Seattle, what they do well is they usually play really good zone coverage. But I think we have the ability to beat their secondary. We have the ability to create mismatches there, and they're so banged up on defense that we should be able to move the ball effectively on the ground and in the air. Our defensively, with Kenneth Walker being out, we actually should be able to. I don't think our defense should have a problem with their offense. I think the biggest thing is for us is Seattle's very opportunistic still at the same time. They're always going to be that way with Pete Carroll still running the show as far as like talent. I think the biggest thing that we need to do is take care of the football. And I think that's the biggest focus for the Dolphins is take care of the football, not turn it over. So I think turnovers will change this game. I think I feel like if the Dolphins throw more than one interception, I think they lose the game. I don't think they can afford to turn the ball over. I think the Dolphins defense can force some turnovers too to keep them in the game. I just think that looking at the offenses, I feel like we might have a hard time consistently moving the ball if we get behind because of turnovers. So for me, I think the weakness is if we can consistently move the football, I think we'll stay ahead of it. And their offense, I think we'll give up sacks. I think they'll have a hard time moving the ball against us if we don't put our defense in a bad spot like we did Thursday.
Greg?
I'm not so concerned about our offense. My concern is our defensive secondary. Seattle's got 3 wide receivers that can hurt us. Ramsey can only cover 1. Okay,
Which will be Metcalf likely.
Most likely Metcalf, but there are other players there that can hurt.
I love Tyler Lockett. He's a great quarterback.
He's one of my favorite slot receivers now. But if you watch the I'm going to butcher his name, Jackson Smith.
Jackson Smith Enigma, JSN.
And
Just call him JSN. Jackson Smith.
JSN. All right.
Yeah, Dave Stager wanted him very badly. Remember that, Brett? How badly he wanted him in Green Bay? He was begging for him.
Dude is such a freaking fantastic route runner. Ohio State receiver. Yeah. Just such a great route runner.
You know, I've only watched him the first 2 weeks of this year, but I'm impressed with him. All right. And I don't have a lot of faith in our secondary right now. And basically Buffalo didn't have to throw the ball. Okay. And Jacksonville isn't a great throwing team right now. I want to see what this secondary is going to do.
That's a fair point.
This secondary, Miami secondary, could get lit up this week. And that's my concern because there's a couple things, they're starting offensive tackles hurt.
Skylar's not the problem.
What kind of pass rush are we going to generate? All right. Can we generate it? Can we contain Geno Smith, keep him in the pocket? And what's he going to do to our secondary? If we can contain the passing game, Miami has a very good shot at winning this game. if they go like they did against Seattle or New England, I'm sorry, and he throws for 300 yards and a touchdown or two and no interceptions, I don't see how Miami can win the game.
Yeah. 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 I also don't think I don't know that we'll have much of an issue as far as like up front on defense at the same time. So my hope would be that we balance it out. I just looked it up. Ramsey has done pretty well against Metcalf, but like you said, even if Ramsey could blank Metcalf and frustrate him all game, you still have Jackson Smith and Jigba. You still have Tyler Lockett. And so they still have some talent. Your best bet would be to rattle Geno, and Geno doesn't scare me too much, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. My biggest concern for me that coming into this game is our offense turning the ball over. That's my biggest concern.
Oh yeah,
and constantly putting our defense on the field. That's where I worry. And if they get ahead and it's late in the game with the lead, I worry that we're not going to stop the run, even with Kenneth Walker out. That's where I really would get concerned. Is just them imposing their will.
I think it. I hate to make things overly simple. Overly simple. I honestly think whichever team's wide receivers make the most plays could be the team that wins this game. You need to have Hill and Waddle make a play or two, big play, and Seattle's going to rely on their wide receivers to make big plays too. And Walker being out, Charbonnet is a good receiving running back.
Mm-hmm. And
how are they going to recover? How are they going to cover him?
Well, so to touch on that, on the big play for the touchdown, Long was in the wrong spot. I'm guessing he was in the wrong spot because the backside
ran to a wall.
Yeah, the backside lane was open and the safety or corner was coming to that lane.
Put a good video of it. You showed pictures to that.
Yeah,
he literally went the wrong way.
So I'm like, what are you doing here? So I'm hoping that maybe they phase him out and bring in the former Seattle linebacker Jordan Brooks.
Yeah.
And maybe play him more. I like him a lot better. And I went back and watched week 1 because Greg was like, yeah, Brooks is getting ate alive. But then I'm watching it again. He's getting left dry by Long, just vacating. Long's vacating, and then Brooks is now having to take on the defender or the blocker that was going to block Long. So now, Brooks now has to fight through traffic. But when you watch him in coverage, he was good. So I really hope that they start putting Brooks out there and Anthony Walker out there and a lot less David Long out there because
he's the worst in coverage.
Not been good. He's been terrible in coverage. Brooks
he's the worst in coverage.
Brooks had a couple good plays in coverage, and I was like, that was the best series I had seen from a linebacker.
The play he made in the end zone, it was great.
Yeah, and I was
he didn't get his head turned. He was lucky.
No, but to me, that was the best series I saw from Miami linebackers probably since Carlos Dansby. It was just he popped out 3 plays in a row. Honestly, he was the reason that the defense got off the field on those 3 plays in a row. And I was like, that's what I want to see from linebacker. And that's why I like the signing of Jordan Brooks. But in typical Miami fashion, the best players are not always the ones on the field. And that's frustrating for me to watch all the time. So I think that's a big factor, a long way to it. But that's a big factor for me, too, is how the linebackers play and what linebackers do play. Because I think Jordan Brooks would be a better matchup with Seattle to be the nickel dime linebacker than having these guys or having David Long on the field. We definitely need Jordan Brooks maybe to switch roles with Long.
Greg, you want to say something?
No, I agree. I just the defense needs to step up over these next couple games. They're going to be low. They're going to be low scoring games. I don't see the offense, putting up 24 plus points at all. So the defense really needs to step up, and that to me is the secondary needs to, and they got to find a pass rush. They got to be able to get home with 4.
100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, my next question was, I mentioned because Hunter found it hilarious. How has to step up and lead this team because it supposedly was Tua the first game. But you can't rely. Who has to be that catalyst to lead this team? Like, who's the guy coming in at the beginning of the game, at halftime, on the sideline? Who has to step up? Because I don't see any of them. I see Hill just getting off the field when he feels like it. Ramsey looks frustrated. He's gotten burnt in 2 consecutive games by extending plays by Lawrence with Brian Thomas and then with Ty Johnson. Like he feels like he's being left out to dry. Steeler's been is quiet. So is Campbell. So like, who's gonna lead? Who's Canada? Ingold? Like which one of these captains is gonna step up and be the leader for the next 4 games? Which one of these captains do you want to see lead this team for the next 4 games? There's a lot of them. So who should it be?
Yeah, I that is a great question in my mind because all preseason essentially if you've read the Miami reporters or the local reporters, they talked about how the leadership on this team was better. Okay, that Tua was taking a more active leadership role. Okay, Ramsey was taking a more active leadership role, profanity-laced tirades and, pump up things, in front of Stephen Ross and everything. And, they made a big deal about the Jacksonville game about Tua's halftime rant, with his Hawaiian accent and stuff like that, right? All of that stuff. In my mind, it's not working. Okay, whatever they're doing, it's not working. So who's going to take up that mantle? And right now, I think it's got to be a couple of veterans. It's got to be Campbell, and it's probably got to be Armstead on offense. Hill
with a bad shoulder.
With a bad shoulder, but Hill's not that type of person. He's not a leader, even though he's your best player on offense. Your backup quarterback isn't typically a leader of the team.
No.
And who else on offense has the chops to do it other than Armstead?
None.
Right? And then if Ramsey and Campbell, because again, I like Sealer, but he's not that type of guy.
He's too
and
quiet.
I don't know if Phillips is that type of guy either. So where is it going to come from? It should be Ramsey and it's got to be Campbell.
Well, here's where I miss Chubb. Because I think Chubb is that guy.
I think Chubb I think Chubb is that guy, and Chubb is not only that guy. Chubb is somebody that can get home one-on-one, right? And so who's going to make a big play on defense to spark the team in these next 4 weeks? All right, it should be Ramsey. It should be Holland. Holland made the big play in Jacksonville that led to a win.
You know what's crazy? I don't know about you two. You know who I miss? I don't know. Maybe Bret will figure it out. Who's the one player? Let me ask you. Who on the team right now, because I know who mine is the missing spark that was on the team last year that if you feel at this moment, don't take the obvious pick because I think people were going to pick the obvious, but that's not me. That right now, in this moment, heading into this game, would be a spark that could lead the Dolphins to having a sense of motivation and adrenaline going into the next 4 weeks. Which player is missing from last season that could help us do it this season? Because I disagree with the leadership. There's players on this team that were better leaders last year that I feel are better in this adversity than they have right now. Who's the player you missed the most from last year that you wish was still on this team now during these moments?
Well, here's where Wilkins will come in. I mean,
Josh Wingate is a genius.
The Van Gate.
You understand? Have you seen him with Brian Flores the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
The guy is. Can you imagine? In this offense this week, he would be so. He would be so hyped for this game.
You know what's funny is
so in his
I said we could have just re-signed him, and then we wouldn't have needed to sign or to draft Chop Robinson.
Exactly.
And we needed Chop Robinson. Did we? Because if we had signed Andrew Van Ginkel, we wouldn't have needed
him. Can you imagine if we had Brian Thomas right now on our team? We wouldn't be talking about the wide receiver position.
Well, that's the thing. I know hindsight's 20/20. I know hindsight's but everybody talking about, oh,
They
we
went
signed
for
OBJ,
need. They went
we
for
signed
need.
this, and that. We don't need a wide receiver. This is why
Best
you
player
don't
available.
draft for need. This is why you draft for impact players that make
Austin Jackson,
immediate
Liam
impact.
Eichenberg.
Like that's right there. But that's a whole other story for another day.
Let's redraft. No, but let me ask you.
Just read the
Greg,
fire career captain.
Greg, what do you think? Like, is there a player you truly missed from last year that you feel would be a catalyst during this next 4-game stretch?
So when Phillips went out last year and Van Ginkel came in, all right, and the play really didn't drop off.
No.
The thing that impressed me about Van Ginkel was his football instincts.
Yeah.
Okay. He's not the athlete that Phillips is. Okay. But he made plays that Phillips couldn't because his instinct, basically, the stuff
He's a
that
football player.
the stuff that you can't teach necessarily, he just anticipated and made plays. And he's the guy on defense that I miss the most. It's not Wilkins. It's not, somebody who is diverse and can play the run and rush the passer and basically move around, which is what Flores is doing with him in Minnesota. He's all over the field. All right. And he's just he creates matchup issues. And I don't see anybody on Miami's defense right now that's capable of doing that.
I'm not afraid of anybody on. That's one thing I've realized the first 2 weeks. Love Anthony Weaver as a person, this and that, but he's too nice. I'm not afraid. There's not one player, like you said, even Philip. Chubb is the one guy I could say is one player that I would fear on our defense. I don't fear anybody right now. They're throwing a Ramsey.
Which offensive coordinator that Miami's defense is playing is game planning around a front seven player? You're not.
There's
okay.
Not.
There's not. You're not changing blocking schemes to accommodate that one player, right? The disruptor in the front seven.
Look at last year Baltimore. Like, I think John Harbaugh is on the hot seat. Like, Max Crosby ate them for lunch. The only reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-0 is because of TJ Watt. They can't stop him. We don't have one catalyst at that. We don't have Max Crosby. We don't have a TJ Watt. We don't have a Chris Jones. No matter how good Jalen Ramsey is, but I seem to be forgetting with this team that's doing backwards, which I think Bret's going to love because he wants to fire Greer, is we think our stars need to be at wide receiver and cornerback versus in the trenches or at the QB position.
Why can't guys that TJ Watt fall to us, man?
We think the glamorous position where the stars should be. How about getting a stout quarterback and a stout linebacker or defensive lineman who can wreck a game?
And it's the thing. How many pass rushers have come out in the NFL in the draft and have been a game changer and have been all over the draft? Max Crosby, what round did he go in? Like third, fourth round? Trey Hendrickson, he was a beast in the, I forgot what, I think a second round.
Chris Jones.
Third round. Chris Jones. Chris Jones, I'm not like patting myself on the back here. I was actually really high on him when he came out of Mississippi State. And I could not put my thumb on, would he be a defensive end, D tackle? Like, where would I move him? Then I realized you just put him out there. You move him around, and he creates problems, and he does. TJ Watt falls right in our lap. We take Charles Harris, and it's just like these kind of players that Dolphins have missed on. In the aspect of this game to kind of try to keep it somewhat on topic without ranting on Greer is this is what's missing from our roster. And Greg is right. Who do you game plan in our front seven against? Really nobody. Even when Chubb's healthy, like Chubb is our best front seven player and a talented player, a very good player. And I think he's elite and he's good, but like, are you game planning against him? And
I don't know. With Chubb, I would say yes. With Phillips, he hasn't gotten to that point yet. And that's why, in Miami fans do this and all fan bases do this. But
that hurts.
Well, Miami fans think Phillips is a great player. He's not.
He's a situational player.
He's a situational player who last year was starting to take that next step. All right. Yeah. He was better. he had his best year last year until the injury, and if he kept improving and things like that, he might have become one of those types of players.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And I still think he can be, but we'll see.
well, he's not going to be 2023 Phillips this year.
No,
That
not
injury
this year. No.
that injury takes a full year to recover. You're seeing it with Von Miller. Okay, Von Miller was basically got hurt in 2022.
He was
2023,
a shell of himself.
he was a shell of himself. But so far this year,
A sack a game.
he's looking pretty good again. Didn't he?
Yep.
You know, I mean, that's just one of those things. It just that's how it works.
Hunter, go back and watch Phillips play. Not to take anything away from him, it was a covered sack. Against Buffalo, he did give chase a few times. He did get Josh Allen off his spot and get pressure a little bit. So Phillips is still, again, like he gets
He's
there.
a good player. He's a really good player, but he's not a superstar.
No. Could he be? I think he has a talent to be. But the thing with Phillips that I've always said is he always seems to get there to get the pressure, but not the sack. And that's still a good thing. Like, you could definitely you need guys like that on the roster that are constantly in the quarterback's face. Yeah, he may only give you 7 to 10 sacks a year, but he's going to be in the quarterback's face a lot. I could live with guys like that, especially when I have a Chubb on the other side who can get double-digit sacks, and that did not come out right. But
by the way, you should imagine. By the way, you know who's actually enjoying the way the first 2 weeks are going? Bradley Chubb, because everyone thought at the end of this year with Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips,
that Chubb will be gone.
That we struggle. Oh, now watch what's this. He's going to be back a game. Bradley Chubb's going to be back a game. He's going to get like 3. He's going to get a sack or 2. They're going to extend him.
I'm telling you what,
they're going to extend Bradley Chubb.
Guys who are hoping that Chubb will be gone out, we drafted Robinson. Like, what is wrong with you guys? Yeah. Phillips is not on the contract yet, and if they re-sign Phillips, cool. But like, are you really going to like say?
Chubb is our best player.
Why?
Chubb is our best player.
Why do we want to let our best players go? They extend all the other guys. God,
yeah.
It's frustrating.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So, guys, we're an hour and 36 into it. It's later than we normally do it. I'm sure you're a little tired, Greg. I'm sure from flying and all that. But I know. But let me ask you guys, because I'm going to be on Sunday for the pregame show at 11. How do you see this game playing out on Sunday? And what is your prediction for the game? Because this will be your chance to predict it.
All right. I see a game that both teams are. It's not a pretty game at first. I think both teams are going to be making mistakes. I think both teams are going to try to give the game away at first. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think the Seahawks are going to end up winning it. I think the Dolphins will turn the ball over, and I think it's going to hurt them the most. And I think it's going to be a final score I have right now, 28-17, and 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions are going to be the biggest difference in the game. That's kind of how I kind of see it happening. Would love to be wrong there, though, but I kind of see it happening as the turnovers are going to shoot us in the foot.
Greg?
I didn't like Miami's chances in this game with Tua. I just think Seattle's a tough place to play, and Seattle is not an awful team. They're a fringe playoff team at home. Against an offense that's struggling. I don't see that changing, and in that environment with that noise, for Miami to win, they're going to need a big turnover advantage, like 3-0. They're going to have to put the offense in really good field position to where it's a first down and you're kicking field goals. For them to win this game, it's going to be like a 16-14 game, but I don't see that happening. I really think their wide receivers, Seattle's passing game, is going to do damage to our DBs, and I'm saying it's going to be like 24-16.
We're pretty close. Yeah, I had 28-17. You had 24-16. Yep. I just see it. Turnovers being the backbreaker again, and the Dobbs 24-20 with Hawks. So I thanks for giving us that much credit for scores. I can't see us scoring more than 20. I mean, I would love for Skylar to come out of nowhere and be like our Romo, Brady, and all that. But like it's not going to happen. I don't see it.
But if Miami scores like 30 points in this game, or let's call it 4 touchdowns and a couple field goals or something like that, you got a legit quarterback thing going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to blow up all over the place.
By the way, this is the thing. Part of Dolphins land wants Skylar to fail to make Tua come back and look like the hero. The last thing people want is because the Tua-nons do not want Tyler to have a great game, because that all people are going to say is that see, I told you Skylar's not going. So no matter what happens in Dolphins land, there's going to be for me right moment. It doesn't matter what happens in the Indianapolis game. This is I don't care what's happened in the past. This is the defining moment for Mike McDaniel. You have a guy who you've kept in your system. You cut Mike White, who you gave millions of dollars to. You kept Skylar Thompson. You didn't go get a backup quarterback when everyone told you should go get an established backup quarterback because of Tua. So for me, the Dolphins aren't going to win this football game. The reason why the Dolphins are going to win this football game is as a result of not the players on the field. It's going to be of the game planning. It all relies on the hands of the Excel sheet accountant who still hasn't who still traumatized me in the Chargers game where he made Brandon Staley look like Vince Lombardi on the defensive side of the ball. For me, until he proves me wrong, I will continue to rip him, because not as a person, as a head coach, he is yet to prove to me that he could take a moment and adjust. Because I will remind you, there's key moments in the Tennessee game. I don't know if you guys saw it. Watching Kirk Cousins go down the field on Vic Fangio's soft-ass Swiss cheese, cottage cheese defense, where he left everything in front of him and let Kirk Cousins go down the field in literally 30 seconds to score a touchdown. The guy made Slay look like a moron. It was so reminiscent of the Tennessee game. As long as Mike McDaniel does not have the fire.
Tennessee game.
Does not have the fire to get mad at his players, get annoyed by his players. Instead, because it's honestly, it's a nice sweet moment to kiss on the forehead. When your team sucks, Brian Callahan ripped into Will Levis. I don't need that extent, but get frustrated, get annoyed, throw a clipboard, do have a Ken Dorsey moment on the sideline for God's sake.
Do that, and he's going to ask himself if he actually sucks.
No. I'm not negative. I am positive about the Miami Dolphins. I believe the talent on the field can win this football game. I want them to prove me wrong. My concern is the fact that I believe Tua is going to be a distraction, being on the sideline with his earpiece. Maybe he'll be dressed like Russell Wilson. Is he allowed to get dressed?
Oh my God!
Reserve? Is he allowed to wear full pads?
Tua's quirky, but I'm so glad he is not kind of quirky.
Did you guys watch the game last night at all? Did you happen to notice that one of the actually defensive players on the Patriots was wearing the Guardian cap? Right.
Yeah.
The guy was smart to wear that. I'm not drinking no haterade. Okay, don't get me started for that.
The bus is at the repair shop.
No, it's not.
Because it was the tires are full of copium and now they're all deflated.
No. Okay, I want to understand. I want to clarify something. I believe Skylar Thompson can perform, but I believe the offense has to be adjusted. I've been saying this for 2 years when Teddy Bridgewater came in. Teddy Bridgewater is not Tua. Skylar Thompson is not Tua. Stop trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. All I'm asking is utilize the skills of your quarterback to adapt to what's in front of you. If you're telling Skylar Thompson, who doesn't have the reaction time and the anticipation skills of Tua, to throw to a spot, stop telling him to throw to a spot. It's not going to work. Right? It's like telling a surgeon. It's like telling a mechanic who's good with cars to go perform surgery on a human, or telling a veterinarian who can do surgery on dogs to go perform on a human. It doesn't work that way. It's not the same. It's not the same organs. All I'm asking is for Mike McDaniel to dumb it down. Here's my prediction. I'm going to be very frank. Either we're going to win big. We're going to lose huge because he's going to force Skylar Thompson to be someone he's not. Or we're going to win a very tight, low-scoring game because they adapted to the fact that this is Skylar's first chance, give him some confidence, make it really simple for him, and everyone could be drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't want it to be where Skylar Thompson is the star. I want to. He needs to be his Chad Pennington self, a game manager. Be Trent Dilfer when he was on the Ravens. Do something. I don't care. Just don't give the game away. That's what I want to see.
To that point, Evan, I will say this as well. Okay, quit playing game theory. Quit doing anything like this. If it's third and this far or fourth and this far on the 15-yard line, kick the field goal.
Yeah. No going for it with Skylar Thompson. Zero going for it.
Don't go for it. Take the points when you can get it because they're going to be
I'll
pressure.
take that. I'll take that every day. I'll take that every day.
But you don't want that name on Twitter, though.
It doesn't bother me. But it doesn't bother me. That's the thing. I don't care. I love my team. I believe in the team as a whole. I believe that they have the wrong driver of the actual bus that's driving them to Seattle because he's more concerned about how he's dressed and if people have been tucked. I'm sure. I guarantee you, I don't want someone who tucks in each player in bed at night. I want a guy who's right now. If I was him, I'd be scowling. I would have been saying after the game, like this week, on to I don't want to talk about the past. I'm focused on this game. He's still talking in soliloquies and riddles. Like it's almost laughable. I listen to him to hear the stupidity coming out of his mouth because I think he's trying to convince himself that if he says things the longer you go, the less people are going to listen and they're going to forget how dumb you sounded when you got to the point. That's what he did today. Yeah. He's like that's the thing I think people are realizing that he's no longer funny. I want an angry Mike McDaniel. I want a pissed off Mike McDaniel. Yeah. I want him to get thrown out of the game, Mike McDaniel, because I'm pissed off on the way the refs are calling the game. I don't want to see Mike McDaniel lost and completely fogged out on the sideline.
Coach Jay, I don't think it was 45 screen calls. I think it was just the way the game flow went and what the quarterbacks ended up doing.
But to that point, okay, don't expect this offense to sustain drives. All right, it's Skylar Thompson. You got Waddle. You got Hill. Take a lot of shots.
Yeah.
All right. If you want to score, you're going to have either a short field or you're going to have a lot of big plays. Okay. You cannot hope for a 10-12 or 8-10-12 play drive to score points with Skylar Thompson.
And by the way,
take your shot.
And by the way, if we're on the 40, I'll say our own 40 and let's say 3rd and 15 or whatever it is, I would take a shot with Hill and Waddle because if you take a shot, it's almost as good as a punt.
Well, yes, and
it's like a punt.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If you get
take your shots.
Yes.
All right. You're not going to sustain drives. Yeah. If you go into this game thinking that you can run the ball, short controlled passing and things like that, you're going to get boat raced. You're going to get crushed in this game.
Yeah. Right? What's funny is they were doing that with Tua too. It's no go.
Correct. It's not working. All right. It does. Again, you go back to the first week. It took like 3 big plays basically to win that game. You're going to need 3 big plays, probably maybe even 4 or 5 in this game to win this game.
Yeah.
All right. And you can't dink your way down the ball, down the field. You're not going to be able to, 3 yards in a cloud of dust it and shit like that, right? Oh,
we'll know by the first. By the way, we'll know by after the Dolphins' first drive. Like I'll know right away where the game is going. You'll know right away after 3 plays. Where if it's a game that's going to be close or it's a game that's going to be an utter effing disaster.
First play of the game, I'm putting Hill or Waddle on a goal.
I'm going deep. I'm going
throwing
deep.
the ball as far as I can and telling my guys to run under it.
Yeah.
And you see how the defense reacts. Remember Adam Gase did that against Seattle.
Yes, I will.
They missed it.
They missed it.
It was against Cincinnati. Either way, it was against that same defense, and they missed it. And he still attacked it again later on in the season.
Yeah.
And like he said, against the Super Bowl against Seattle, he saw that opportunity. It was against Seattle, and they had missed it week 1. They almost had it.
Whoa.
It was early on. So I'm all about that.
Whoa. That was a little bit different. That was because of the fact that they were throwing intercept. That was just awful. Well, this is different. This is in Seattle.
That was a game that was red flags for me. That the Giants,
Yeah, it didn't look good after 2
second
minutes.
half of the Texas game started alarms started going off. What's
By
happening
the way, I think
here?
he's a little high on Oreo flavored Coke, the Pepsi that they just came out with. Oreo flavor.
It tastes like vanilla
Oreos. You're having a few too many Oreos today, mixed with Pepsi.
It tastes
today.
like vanilla Coke. Well,
What is
listen,
up with that?
real quick, I would throw that out there. That's where I think the whole zone defense to stop the Dolphins' offense came from, was Lovie Smith in that secondary.
Yeah.
I
wanted Lovie Smith as our DC.
Yeah, but Lovie Smith was that 2 seasons ago, McDaniel's first year.
What if it was Coke Oreos, not Pepsi Oreos?
Whatever year that was, that the second half to end up sitting out, and it was it got ugly, or started kind of getting well, that was a game that I think it started coming out wait a minute, zone coverage kind of works against this offense.
Yep.
Congratulations, Bret.
What?
The Phillies beat the Mets, and now they've clinched the playoffs.
Woo!
Phillies are in the playoffs 3 years in a row. They're good. They're the best team in the NBA. But can we just talk about for a sec how sick Shohei Ohtani is? That guy's not human.
Oh yeah,
that dude. I just watched the highlights of that game yesterday. Holy cow! That guy is so much fun to watch.
Oh, he's a pleasure. The fact that guy runs at his size, and imagine when he starts pitching next year. Holy crap!
That dude, he's old school, and I love it.
But he's going to run into a problem. It's called the Philadelphia Phillies.
I say old school, but he's not old school in the professional baseball sense, because that's why baseball got boring. It's too old school. Some of these guys who are willing to do things that the old heads are like, oh, no, it's not. We don't want to see that in baseball. No, it makes the game more fun.
Yeah.
A pitcher hitting all them home runs, yeah, that's fun. That's fun for us.
He can't pitch this year. He can't even pitch this year. So
yeah.
He's focused on his running and hitting. I doubt he would. If he's pitching next year, I doubt he runs as hard as he does.
Oh, you're right. You're right about that.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to get his leg injured or anything like that.
And concussion, something like that.
I know this is a football show, but
we talk about everything on this network. You don't know that?
But I do. But if you get a chance to watch the Greg Maddux, I don't know if it's a 30 for 30 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
But oh my God, he's probably my favorite baseball player of the last 30 years. When it's all said and done, and just the way he thought about the game is just unbelievable. It's so good.
I got to watch Pedro Martinez, live all the time.
Oh yeah,
talk about a pitcher.
Oh yeah, that was a heyday right there.
Yeah. Hey, you had Roy Halladay. I got to watch him tons in Toronto, and then you got him in Philly.
Oh man, that was
poor
him. Him and Cliff Lee, and somehow we didn't win the World Series. We won the World Series the year before without him and Cliff Lee.
It's so crazy.
And we lost to the Yankees. What is happening?
We've gone a little off topic. So, any final words from the two of you before we call it a night?
I don't know. Honestly, the Dolphins just have to. We're about to find out who they really are.
They have to forget who they are. They have to just don't this today. I want them to play hard-nosed football. I want them to play good defense and just do enough to win.
Adversity breeds opportunity, whatever he said. Honestly, in adversity, this is where you want guys of mental toughness. We're about to find out how mentally tough this team is in this stretch.
Yeah.
And let's find out how well this team is built. And I don't have a lot of high hopes, but we're going to see where it goes.
Yeah.
The Dolphins have enough talent on offense and defense to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But the big players need to make big plays. And that's going to be the key. You need 2 or 3 special plays on offense. You're going to need 2 or 3 special plays on defense. They can win this game. Will they make those plays? That's the part I'm not sure.
Let's just see if Mike McDaniel will chat. Will we be on Sunday night? Will I be calling him Mike McShula or Mike McGase? Which one will he be on Sunday night? If he channels as Mike McShula, they win. If he channels as Mike McGase, we're in deep doo-doo. Let's put it that way.
We'll find out.
I'll be.
Thanks, T-Dog. Welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah.
Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out Caneswear, the greatest show on surf. We're going to be regulars on this. I'm going to try to do my Thursday show on the bandwagon, but Finstock Overtime on the bandwagon. hopefully we'll be talking about something positive about Monday Night Football with the
Yeah.
Dolphins 2-1. Because the last thing we want to know is that the Bills are 3-0. The Jets are 2-1, and they're looking down at us, and we have the same record as the goddamn stinking Patriots. That would be very embarrassing. So, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, fins up.
Fins up.
Or this is right.